Trump gives the most racist speech of his presidency, or at least that's what you would believe if you took the mainstream media at their word. Kanye runs for president. Colin Kaepernick can't stop running his mouth, and we look at the ratio that restores my faith in humanity. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Alright, I'm going to start with some apologies here because I slept through two alarms today, the one at 5 and the one at 6, and I woke up at about 6:57 this morning, and that's the reason that it's after 8 when we're starting this out here. So that is on me because I know you guys deserve better for that, and I will do better throughout the rest of the week here as well. And don't forget, we may at some point be welcoming in the audience from Stephen Ignoramus' channel because he is not doing any morning shows this week either. So Godspeed to Steven for the fact that he is doing his music camp this week. I hope he does well. I hope he makes a lot of money. And I hope that the kids love him, which I'm sure that they will. So let's look forward and cheer him on as well as we go along. But before we get started into the news today, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We have got Stephen Ignoramus. We've got my show, The Generational Gap. We've got the Freckles and Brit Show, The R-Rated Conservative, and Wyatt Birkenhoff. Everybody's been active this week, and Wyatt is actually trying to come out and get more active, so come and check us all out over there. Check out some of our swags. Check out some of my gaming, Steven's music, all kinds of stuff here. It's not just politics and news over here. So come over and check us out there, hang out with us, and check out all kinds of other great creators as well. So let's keep moving along here. First, we're going to look at the Dow, which we looked at this chart last week, but now we're looking at here what we've got going on. We had a little bit of a slide on Thursday. Of course, the markets were not open on Friday in observance with Independence Day, so we will be opening up a fresh new chapter today. So that's what we were looking at before. Now let's see what the investors have to say on that one. See, that was a short chart analysis this week because it hasn't changed since the last time we looked at it. All right, from Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones today, stocks rise as China turns bullish, Tesla spikes, chips jump, View 2, GSX lead IBD 50. From Alan R. Elliott, stock futures geared up for a strong open Monday as a rally in China boosted global markets. Tesla spiked to the head of the Nasdaq 100. Chips moved up with Xilinx and Taiwan Semiconductor making big moves. China stocks, Futu Holding and GSX Technadu were runaway leaders. Among IBD 50 stocks, American Express and JP Morgan staked out early leads on the Dow Jones today. I wonder how many people cut up their MasterCard after, I don't even know if this is a real article or not, but people were talking about MasterCard changing their name because of the slavery connotations. Oh my god, it says master, but he's slave. Yeah, that's what we have going on. That is actual news. That's being covered in our news cycle. Figure that out. Dow Jones futures hammered 1.8% higher, and S&P 500 futures traded 1.6 above fair value. Nasdaq 100 futures scrambled 1.6% higher on the stock market today. Both the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 look to extend winning streaks to a sixth day. Small caps outpaced early market action, sending Russell 2000 futures up 3%. Tesla blasted the top of the stock. Wow. I can read. Tesla blasted the top of the Nasdaq 100 up 5.7%, following last week's 26% surge. China stocks figured heavily on the early trade. Baidu and JD.com traded up 4.4% and 3.4% respectively, and near the top of the Nasdaq 100. Baidu ended Thursday 4% below a 128.38 buy point with a cup with handle base. On the S&P 500, medical names were running strong on coronavirus news. Becton Dickinson rallied 4.5% pre-market after announcing the launch of a portable rapid test kit for SARS-CoV-2 antigens. Mylan popped 2.7% on news that it had received regulatory approval in India for certain remdesivir injections as restricted emergency use in COVID-19 patients. I'm sure that my whole audience is running right now, getting ready to go out and get that antibody test to see if they've had it before. And if not, they're going to want to have the injection, Get that inoculation, get that vaccine, because it's the most important thing in the world. Just ask everybody in the mainstream news. We can't open up until you get your government mandated vaccine. So hurry and get it. Chips were rising with the VanEck Vector semiconductor trading 1.2% higher in early action. Xilinx knocked out a 3.9% gain after Goldman Sachs upgraded the stock to conviction buy. ASML Holdings surged 3.5% to lead the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index in early trade. Taiwan Semiconductor powered up 3.5%. The chip foundry ended in a buy range on Thursday after clearing a handle buy point at 58.14%. The buy range runs to 61.05. China rallies. Shanghai aces 28-month high. Stock markets rallied in China as the Shanghai Composite punched 5.7% higher, overtaking 14-month highs to close at its highest mark since February 2018. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index rallied 3.8%, moving to its highest close since March and overtaking its 200-day moving average for the first time since February. Drivers for the rally were unclear, although state-run media outlets, which are completely objective, ran articles Friday and Monday encouraging investors into the market and touting prospects for a post-coronavirus bull market run. Financials, tech, mining, aviation, and brokerage stocks led. The South China Morning Post announced on Monday that Hong Kong had stampeded into a bull market, although uncertainties regarding Hong Kong's market remain high as Chinese authorities continue to impose increasing restraints on the district. The buying carried over into Japan, where Tokyo's Nikkei 225 launched the week with a 1.8% jump. Europe's market picked up the mood and were rallying sharply, with benchmarks in London, Paris, and Frankfurt up nearly 2% in afternoon trade. China-based Futu Holdings was screaming leader among IBD 50 stocks, up 24% in pre-market action. Brokerage stocks led Monday's rally in Shanghai as individual investors surged back into the market. Futu stocks spiked 14.7% on Thursday, leaving them extended and up 86% from a May breakout. GSX Technidu, an online tutoring service based in China, rocketed April. Wow, those are words that you never want to hear together. The stock had broken out from a 16-week base in mid-June. Shares ended Thursday up 36% from the breakout. So, looks like China is leading our stock market once again. Well, as long as it's going up, I'm going to hold off on questioning why it's going up, but we do need to sit back and remember what China did in the beginning of the coronavirus outbreak as well. But, I mean, it's putting Americans back to work at this point and getting money flowing in this country right now. So maybe we'll wait a couple weeks before we look into that, but we are going to need to look into that. That's eventually going to happen at some point. We're going to need to look into that. So a couple things moving here. Let's see what CNBC has to say. The Dow is set to open 400 points higher as Wall Street builds on last week's gains. Airlines rise from Fred Imbert. Why does CNBC always do this? It freezes up from the point that I link it up. This is 3 days in a row it's done this. From the point that I've linked it up into the stack for the story to the point that I get to it, it freezes up. Alright, anyway. U.S. stock futures traded sharply higher early Monday as Wall Street tried to build on the momentum from last week's solid performance and shake off a continued rise in coronavirus cases. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures rose 368 points, or 1.4%. The move implied an opening gain of more than 420 points. The S&P 500 futures gained at 1.5%. The NASDAQ 100 futures gained 1.4%. There are a few reasons for the bullish lift to start the week. Stocks closely tied to an economic reopening gained in pre-market trading Monday. Carnival Corp, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian Cruise Line all jumped more than 2%. American Airlines and Delta Airlines also gained nearly 2%. Shares of retailer Gap were higher as well. We've talked about why clothing stocks are going to start going up here. Those people that didn't leave the house. Deal making also boosted sentiment. Warren Buffett made his first major deal among the market turmoil this year, with Berkshire Hathaway buying the natural gas transmission and storage assets from Dominion Energy for about $10 billion, including debt. Dominion Energy added 5% in pre-market trading. Uber shares gained after it said it was buying food delivery app Postmates in an all-stock deal worth $2.65 billion. Isn't that the second one that Uber Eats has bought up? Because didn't they buy up Grubhub not that long ago too, I think it was? So they're looking to corner that market here, and I hope that Eat Street doesn't sell out to them because I enjoy using Eat Street. and I don't need to have a lesson in wokeness every time I go and buy food. So we'll be watching that one here. Chinese stock soared with the Shanghai Composite jumping more than 5% as that country continued to open up following their coronavirus outbreak. And lastly, stocks were building on momentum to start the second half. The Dow and S&P 500 rose 3.3% and 4% respectively last week, and the Nasdaq advanced 4.6% in that time. The market also wrapped up last week its best quarterly performance in decades. The Dow rallied more than 17% for the second quarter, while the S&P 500 jumped nearly 20%. In that time period, the Nasdaq posted a gain of 30.6% for the quarter. So yeah, like I said, a couple things that are moving here. Looks like they are trying to build off the momentum from last week, which is a good thing because good news begets more good news, it appears, which is a good thing. Absolutely is a good thing. I understand, of course, that they say this is the best week in decades, and I understand the fact that it is replacing some of the worst weeks that we've seen in years and years and years on end, but I mean, it's still doing well. Even if it's just replacing what was lost, it's still going up. So, we're doing fairly well, I think. Yeah, that's the chart from January on to today. We're very close to where we were. Anyway, let's keep moving along here. Let's talk about the speech. So, we're going to start with CNN because why not? An analysis, which means an op-ed piece from Mae Reston over on CNN. As Trump gaslights America about coronavirus, Republicans face a critical choice. The gulf between reality and President Trump's delusional vision of a waning coronavirus threat was on full display this weekend as cases soared in key hotspots while he delivered speeches at Mount Rushmore and the White House, with little physical distancing and few masks, directly contradicting the advice from his public health experts. Playing with fire at a time when experts say the spread of the virus appears to be spiraling out of control, but no deaths, oddly enough. Trump continued gaslighting Americans about the threat to their health during a 4th of July speech from the South Lawn of the White House, where he minimized the dangers of COVID-19 with a baseless statement that 99% of coronavirus cases are harmless, a claim that the Food and Drug Administration chief could not back up on Sunday morning. Yeah, I wouldn't say harmless, but you're definitely not going to die from them. With many Americans flouting public health guidelines during the holiday weekend, Trump's conduct is creating an infection point for the GOP at a time when his poll numbers have tumbled. With American lives on the line, the question now is whether members of the Republican Party will continue to stand by in silence as the president peddles fiction about a deadly virus, and if so, will they pay the price at the ballot box in November? While Republicans deserted Trump on the issues of facial coverings, with many urging Americans to wear masks over the past week, they've been mostly silent about Trump's effort to deceive the public about the risks the virus poses. Trump spent the weekend raging about protecting statues of American heroes with racist pasts, while setting an irresponsible example as the virus spreads. This time, the GOP's silence could become complicity, jeopardizing public health and safety as well as American lives. I don't know how you live in this world. I can't figure out how they live in this world and they continue to do this. And look at this. I listened to the speech. And number one off of this, first off, the people that went to the speech and the people that went to the White House speech assessed their own risks and decided what was worth it and what wasn't. And they can't come out and scream empty stadium anymore like they did with the empty stadium. So the people that went out and did this did so at their own risk. And you'll notice that none of the mainstreams right now are talking about the numbers. Oh my God, those numbers, the numbers of people, the numbers of people. We had an epic fireworks show over one of our greatest monuments in the country that the left wants to tear down right now because the sculptor was a Klansman, which I don't even know if that's true or not. The founders were racists and slaveholders. You've got all of this going on, and they want to go back to COVID. So keep that in mind. I want to read one more op-ed on this here before I talk too much more about this. And I've got a couple more articles about specific things that had happened in the speech as well. So let's move on and grab one here from Fox as well. We'll grab one side of the extremist bubble, and we'll grab slightly to the right of that one side of the extremist bubble. Liz Peek, Trump punches back at totalitarian left. Here's why Mount Rushmore speech was important. This is also an op-ed piece from Liz Peek. Which is more divisive? Is there more up here? No, there isn't. Which is more divisive? Tearing down our nation's heroes and monuments, demeaning accomplishments of a great country, casting patriotic Americans as relics from a bygone era, painting the United States as profoundly racist, or railing against these things as President Trump did at Mount Rushmore? In response to the president's Independence Day event, the New York Times thundered Trump uses Mount Rushmore speech to deliver divisive culture war message. We asked the Times, who declared the war? Who decided that our country's history is not something to honor, but rather a dark stain on our nation's conscience? Could it be the liberal elites like those running our universities and the New York Times who have decided that we are better off shouldering our collective guilt than celebrating our successes on the battlefield, in the laboratories, on the playing fields, and every other place where Americans have triumphed? Who chose to divide our country and our politics by gender and race? Who declared our differences more significant than our common cause? It wasn't Republicans, it was Democrats who cultivated identity politics and ripped apart the fabric of this nation. The left has been chipping away at our culture and our values for decades. They deride religion, abhor tradition, and sneer at patriotism. To what end? What do they celebrate? What statues will they erect? All wars incur casualties. The culture wars threaten the optimism and positivity that have long driven this nation and attracted millions to our shores. They threaten the pride we take in our founding and in our founders, the freedoms we cherish and the aspirations we pass on to our children. This is the heritage the left wants to deny. This is the battle joined by President Trump at Mount Rushmore. The Times writes that Trump created a strawman version of the left that he portrayed as inciting mayhem and moving the country toward totalitarianism. There is no strawman. Millions of Americans were horrified by the riots in Minneapolis, New York, and elsewhere that spiraled out of control. They are shocked that Democrat-backed groups call to defund the police while crime is surging across the nation. In the city of Seattle, the disorder led to the terrifying spectacle of CHOP, a downtown zone taken over by gun-wielding anarchists who barred the police. They are not anarchists, you dumb bitch. Who barred the police? The liberal mayor allowed the disorder to fester until finally several people were shot, including 2 who died. That is the very definition of mayhem. Wasn't that the dude from the Allstate commercials? As for totalitarianism, on that score too, many would agree that with the president, it is not the government that is demanding complete subservience as dictionaries define the term. The intimidation is instead coming from the leftist mob, enabled by social media. When scores of people are losing their jobs because of years-old tweets or remarks that are racially insensitive by today's standards, when college-bound students find the doors slammed in their face because of unwoke social media posts, when a professor loses his post at Michigan State University because he shared data suggesting cop shootings are not racially biased, or the New York Times fires an editor because he publishes an opinion piece not confronting the paper's liberal code. Millions are intimidated, afraid to speak up. And Liz, she hits the nail right on the head, with the exception of the anarchy, of course, on this. And, I listened to the speech. I did, front to back. The Redneck Patriot podcast was good enough to put it on his audio platform, so I got to listen to the whole thing, at double speed, of course, but, it was a good speech, and I don't see where the divisiveness is coming from out of this, but, of course, everybody else in the media can find it as well. All men are created equal. How divisive is that? Equal protection for all. How divisive is that? So much of this was so divisive, according to the mainstream media. And that's what the people are going to believe when they go out to the ballot box. And some people are going to cheer it and laud it. And other people are going to be abhorred by it. And this is the culture war that we're getting at, that Liz Peek brings to. The media is trying to shape our opinion over what was probably one of the better speeches of Trump. And I will come out and say that, teleprompter Trump is way better than Twitter Trump and rally Trump. And he does have a unifying message. I like teleprompter Trump, even though I still won't vote for him because of the Patriot Act. I like teleprompter Trump. I like his speeches. But, of course, they're divisive speeches that are meant to tear this country apart, because that's the only thing that the evil orange man wants. All right, let's keep going here. From the Hill. Trump responds to calls to tear down monuments with creation of National Garden of Statues. from Tal Axelrod. The White House unveiled an executive order Friday evening to create a National Garden of American Heroes that will feature statues of prominent Americans. The executive order, which President Trump announced during the 4th of July celebration at Mount Rushmore, comes as the nation grapples with calls to tear down Confederate statues across the country and address other racist iconography. These statues are silent teachers. Is this a Trump quote? No, it's the executive order. I'm still going to read it in a Trump voice. These statues are silent teachers in a solid form of stone and metal. They preserve the memory of our American story and stir us in a spirit of responsibility for the chapters yet unwritten. These works of art call forth the gratitude, the best gratitude, for the accomplishments, the greatest accomplishments, and the sacrifices, the best, the most wonderful sacrifices of our exceptional fellow citizens who, despite their flaws, place their virtues, their talents, and their lives in the service of the nation, reads the executive order, which was disseminated by the White House. The executive order establishes the task force for building and rebuilding monuments to American heroes, which will be empowered to use funding from the Interior Department to establish the site. The task force has 60 days to submit a report to the White House detailing options for the creation of the National Garden, including potential locations. The executive order says the garden will include statues of John Adams, Susan B. Anthony, Clara Barton, Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, Frederick Douglass, Amelia Earhart, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Martin Luther King Jr., Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan, Jackie Robinson, and Harriet Tubman, among others. The garden will also separately maintain a collection of statues for temporary display at appropriate sites around the United States that are accessible to the general public. Under the order, the garden will be open prior to July 4th, 2026, the 250th anniversary of the proclamation of the Declaration of Independence. The executive order also addressed current calls to topple Confederate statues, underscoring that other activists have called for the dismantling of monuments to figures who owned slaves but were not in the Confederacy, including former Presidents George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. To destroy a monument is to desecrate our common inheritance. In recent weeks, in the midst of protests across America, many monuments have been vandalized or destroyed. Some local governments have responded by taking the monuments down, the order reads. These statues are not ours alone, to be discarded at the whim of those inflamed by fashionable political passions. Yet they belong to generations that have come before us and to generations yet unborn. Trump also railed against people tearing down the statues of Confederate leaders during an impassioned speech at Mount Rushmore, accusing them of wanting to overthrow the American Revolution and fundamentally changing our country. There's a new, far-left fascism that demands absolute allegiance. If you do not speak its language, perform its rituals, recite its mantras, and follow its commandments, then you will be censored, banished, blacklisted, persecuted, and punished. Not going to happen to us, he told the packed crowd. So, I am in favor. If the government is going to spend money, and I am always iffy on that, but if the government is going to spend money, I'm in favor of doing it for this way, because this is a way to teach who our American heroes are and find a way to get the discussions going again. And of course, we do need to discuss the problems that our history had, lest we repeat them. But that's an old mantra that's as old as time itself. But there's so many things that go along with this. And yes, the taxpayers paid for many of these Confederate statues, so to topple them down like they've been doing is theft. Just as much as taxation is, but it's already paid for, so they are taking property from these people, from the people that already paid for them. There's so much going on with the statue argument. I can't believe that's even being floated, especially the fact that they want to blow up Mount Rushmore. But this is the way that our culture has gone to this point. No matter who the president is, I don't want to see history erased. I'm not ready to see that. Because he who controls the past controls the present, and he who controls the present controls the future. Alright, let's keep going here. I got a couple more about the speech here. An archived link from Daily Mail, because they want me to turn my ad blocker off, and I sidestepped around that. Donald Trump threatens CNN after he claims they manipulated his July 4th address, so it appears he said Operation Desert Storm took place in Vietnam, but network vehemently denies it. Donald Trump threatened Saturday night that CNN watch what happens after he accused the network of misrepresenting the meaning of his Independence Day speech. Wow, CNN got cold manipulating the words and meaning of my 4th of July speech. They were brazen, desperate. Watch what happens, the president tweeted in the early hours of Sunday morning, probably while he was on a can. Trump did not make clear what he was talking about and whether he was referencing his speech from July 3rd at Mount Rushmore, which were widely criticized, or his July 4th speech remarks at the front of the White House. But the network issued a response to the president's tweet claiming that it actually defended Trump by fact-checking claims that where people asserted that he said Desert Storm occurred in Vietnam. What are you talking about? CNN Communications tweeted, confused by why the president was attacking the network. CNN fact-checked and dispelled the video clip that made it seem like you'd said Desert Storm happened in Vietnam, the official account cleared up, with images in their defense. And a bunch of tweets. This referenced his Independence Day speech at the White House, where a short video clip made it seem like Trump had made a faux pas regarding the two military engagements, which are separated by about 2 decades. CNN denied that the president made the mistake after he discussed the 1990 invasion of Iraq to push back Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. Desert Storm, directly following the mention of the dense fields and jungles of Vietnam. A fact-check reporter for CNN, Daniel Dale, issued a defense of the president, claiming he did not make a substantive error. No, he didn't, Dale said in response to the now-deleted tweet included in the clip. He stumbled when he was trying to say the word sweeping while talking about Desert Storm, but he was just listing wars. He mentioned Vietnam, then stumbling, mentioned in the sweeping victory in Desert Storm. Didn't make a substantive error. So, I don't know what universe we're living in where CNN is actually defending Trump, but yeah, I listened to the speech as well, and no, he didn't make that mistake. And I'm not sure where all of this started, where people were initially talking about the fact that he had said it. I never found a root to this, but I found the article from the Daily Mail. I followed the tweet threads from the trending topic over on Twitter, and I didn't see where the beginning of it was, but yeah, I listened to the speech, and he definitely didn't say that. And to follow up, we'll see what Snopes has to say here. Did Trump say Operation Desert Storm took place in Vietnam? From David Michelson. Claim. During an Independence Day speech, U.S. President Donald Trump declared that Operation Desert Storm took place in Vietnam. Rating false. And here'll be where the origin is. On July 4th, 2020, President Donald Trump delivered an Independence Day address at the White House. Shortly afterwards, social media users began circulating claims that Trump had mistakenly declared during his speech at Operation Desert Storm, the 1991 military operation against Iraq, had taken place in Vietnam. However, the claim was false based on Trump's fumbling of the delivery of the passage in his speech in a way that left some listeners confused, and video excerpts from his address that didn't provide the full context of what he said. During a portion of the speech in which Trump was lauding the prowess of U.S. military aircraft, he stumbled over the word sweeping, either because the teleprompter displayed the wrong word or he simply misread it, and thus the historical progression he invoked at the time from World War II to Korea to Vietnam to Desert Storm got a bit lost in the shuffle, but a transcript of the words clearly shows his references to Vietnam and Desert Storm were two separate thoughts, not a declaration that the latter took place in the former. And Snopes is no friend of the president, so the fact that they fact-checked in his favor when they had the opportunity to come out and slam him once again is a little bit impressive, but I'm still not going to call him objective. All right, let's keep going down here. We get a drink, energy drink here. Once again, if the company that made my energy drink sponsored me, it would be in their can. Instead, I want to use the Quick Trip can. All right, now for the big news, the biggest news of the world right now. Kanye West says he's running for president, but he hasn't actually taken any steps from Allah Al-Assar. Getting on the ballot won't be Yeezy. I see what you did there. Stevie Wonder could see what you did there. Kanye West said Saturday he's running for president in the 2020 U.S. election, an apparent challenge to go head-to-head with President Donald Trump. We must now realize the promise of America by trusting God, unifying our vision, and building our future, West tweeted. I'm running for President of the United States. Hashtag 2020 Vision. West tweeted his plans days after teasing a new song, announcing a new album titled God's Country. Fans immediately tweeted their support for the musician and business mogul, who has a history of promoting himself and his projects with political statements. So far, it doesn't appear West has any intention of actually running for president. With the election only 4 months away, West needs to register with the Federal Election Commission. A present campaign platform, collect enough signatures to get on the November ballot, and more. He's already missed the deadline to file as an independent candidate in many states. Still, he's garnered at least one notable endorsement. Tesla CEO Elon Musk, who was recently photographed with West, responded to his tweet with, "You have my full support." Kim Kardashian also retweeted her husband's announcement with an American flag emoji. West's announcement isn't the first time he's teased the idea of running for U.S. president. West first said he would run for president in the 2015 MTV Music Video Awards. He ended his acceptance speech for the Video Vanguard Award by saying he would run in 2020, but in January 2019 he tweeted 2024, seemingly delaying his plans. In a May 2018 interview with Charlemagne the God, West said, if he were to run, his platform would be the Trump campaign and maybe the Bernie Sanders principles. That would be my mix. Over the past few years, West has both gained and lost fans over his vocal support of Trump. West regularly tweeted his admiration for the president, donned a red Make America Great Again hat, and visited the Oval Office. However, he's recently diverged from the president over the Black Lives Matter movement and protests against police brutality and racial injustice. In June, West donated $2 million to support the families of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, 3 black people who were killed in incidents with police and citizens. So, and I love the reaction for this. Like I said, I'm on Instagram, and I follow a lot of different people. My Instagram is not as political as pretty much every other social media that I have. It's kind of usually what I use to back off from politics and just kind of enjoy the rest of the world there. But because of that, I follow a lot of leftists over on Instagram, and boy, are they pissed off at the fact that Kanye West is running. I have seen so many stories that say, do not vote for Kanye West, not as a joke, not as anything. Kanye West is just going to hand the victory over to Donald Trump because he's evil. There's so many posts like that over on Instagram right now. It's ridiculous how many posts there are like that. But yes, he is running. I don't know. Maybe. I would have to see what his stance is on the Patriot Act. Maybe. I mean, I'm not voting for anybody currently for president, so maybe. But we will see if he can actually get on to some of the states here as well, because that is part of the problem, is that he's not going to be able to run in certain states because he's past the deadline there. And once again, like they said in the article, he hasn't really taken any steps to get into the presidential race. He's just kind of said he's running. So we'll see what happens off of this. All right, let's keep going. That's not an article. All right, we're going to move that one on for next week, or tomorrow rather. But it appears that they're talking about Tucker as well. Stelter, is this Fox News host having a 2024 run as Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News leads as the highest rating show on cable news? Is he considering a 2024 run? CNN's Brian Stelter takes a closer look. With no text. Yeah. All right, let's keep going here. From the Associated Press, and this is a little bit of a sad story. We've made fun of Yeezy, we've made fun of the president, and we've made fun of a few other things at this point, but now we got to get a little bit serious here. From Martha Belisle and Brady McCombs, protester killed on Seattle freeway was dedicated to the cause. A person killed Saturday when a man who drove his car onto a closed Seattle freeway into a crowd protesting police brutality was remembered on Sunday as someone who is dedicated to the cause. The other person hit the incident, meanwhile remains in serious condition on Sunday at a Seattle hospital. The deceased, Summer Taylor, 24, spent the last 6 weeks tirelessly standing up for others while working full-time and supporting everyone around them, wrote Urban Animal on Instagram, the veterinary clinic where Taylor worked in Portland, Oregon. Taylor, who the post said used they and them pronouns, was a positive force for nature and brought joy, the post said. Anyone who works for Urban Animal will tell you that Summer Taylor's laugh made any bad day better. Caitlin Hobrecht, who worked with Taylor at the veterinary clinics, told the Seattle Times that Taylor had been a frequent presence at protests. Summer has been there since day one, standing up for Black lives, staying out all day and night, while still working full-time, taking care of animals, Hobrecht said. Summer talked to me about the protest and how incredible it was to be a part of something so huge, a part of history. Kamala Harris, a U.S. Senator and former Democratic presidential candidate from California, was among those honoring Taylor on social media Sunday. Harris tweeted, "Absolutely heartbreaking. Summer Taylor was only 24 years old, peacefully protesting for Black Lives Matter when they were struck by a car, thinking of their family during this difficult time and everyone in the movement today." Diaz Love, 32, also of Portland, Oregon, was also hit when the car barreled through a panicked crowd of protesters on Interstate 5 on early Saturday morning. Diaz remained in the serious condition Sunday in the intensive care unit at Harborview Medical Center, but her health is improving, spokesperson Susan Craig said. The driver of the car that hit them, Dawit Collette, is in custody awaiting court hearing on Monday, at which the judge will determine if he can be released on bail, according to court documents. Collette of Seattle drove the car around vehicles that were blocking I-5 and sped into the crowd at 1:40 a.m., according to a police report released by the Washington State Patrol. Video taken at the scene of protesters showed the people shouting "Car, car" before fleeing the roadway. Love was filming the protest in a nearly 2-hour-long Facebook live stream captioned "Black Femme March Takes I-5." When the video ended abruptly with about 15 seconds left, shouts of "car" can be heard as the camera starts to shake before screeching tires and the sound of impact are heard. The graphic video posted on social media showed a white Jaguar racing toward a group of protesters who are standing behind several parked cars set up for protection. The car swerves around the other vehicles and slams into 2 protesters, sending them flying into the air. Collette, who was alone, fled the scene after hitting the protesters. Trooper Chase Van Cleef told the Associated Press one of the other protesters got in a car and chased the driver for about a mile. He was able to stop him by pulling his car in front of the Jaguar, Van Cleef said. So there is so much right now that does not add up to any of this, and I've read other articles about this, and I listened to Beauty and the Beta talking about this last night as well. There's just so much that doesn't add up to this. From the reports that I've read, this was a Somali coming over. I believe he was operating a 7-Eleven in Seattle at the time, and yet somehow was able to get his hands on a white Jaguar. So part of this does say tinfoil to me, just screams conspiracy and tinfoil, because something else is going on here. The fact that he's out here with a white Jaguar and plowing into this protest crowd like this. But I don't know what's going to happen with this. And I mean, my heart goes out to Taylor, obviously, because no matter how much I disagree with your cause, nobody should be out dying over it, especially at the hands of somebody who went around cars to do so. But the other side of that is, I mean, if you protest in the road, things could happen. I'll give it that. And Seattle police, yes, they had that blocked off. This was permitted, which I don't think any of this should be permitted. They shouldn't take the time to block off traffic in the road, because that gives you the potential for some of this to happen. Find a park or something. Yes, I understand that, oh, well, we want to inconvenience people for this, but, I mean, cars drive on the road. That happens. Even when it's closed off, cars drive on the road. And you're much less likely to get hit by a car if you're in a park or something. But, I mean, that's just me. And yes, of course, this guy broke the law by going around the barriers and going up into the crowd. That can't be mistaken either. This was supposed to be a safe place for them to do so, but, I mean, it still happened. So there's a lot of moving parts to go to this, but I don't think that we're going to see a lot of the end of this either. I really don't. I think this is going to disappear faster than a father in the ghetto who found out that his girlfriend is pregnant. But let's keep going off here. That was probably the wrong joke to tell, given everything that's going on with BLM right now. All right, from Fox News, Atlanta mayor calls for citizens to stop shooting each other after murder of 8-year-old near BLM protest site. From Greg Ree. In an impassioned press conference Sunday night, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms issued a full-throated call for citizens to stop shooting each other up in the streets after an 8-year-old girl was shot and killed at the 4th of July near a Wendy's that has become a flashpoint for anti-police Black Lives Matter protests in the city. Bottoms, a Democrat who is considered a potential running mate for Biden, made the remarks as she fought through tears and the nation endured a new bout of urban carnage. 63 people were injured and 17 killed in Chicago, including 2 children over the weekend. And in New York City, 44 were hurt and at least 6 killed. Enough is enough, Bottoms said. Enough is enough. We've talked about this movement that's happening across America and this moment in time when we have the ears and interests of people across the country and across the globe who are saying that they want to see change. But the difference in this movement in the time with the civil rights movement, there was a defined common enemy. We're fighting the enemy within when we're shooting each other up on our streets. She continued, you shot and killed a baby. And there wasn't just one shooter. There were at least 2 shooters, an 8-year-old baby. If you want to take us seriously and you don't want us to lose this movement, then we can't lose each other. It has to stop, Bottoms said, according to Fox 5 Atlanta. You can't blame this on police officers. It's about people who shot a baby in a car. We're doing each other more harm than any officer on this force. The mayor said authorities would no longer negotiate with protesters near the Wendy's. Last month, Fox News spoke to 3 armed men in the vicinity who said they would not let police enter. The police aren't allowed here because they're not here to protect us, a man told Fox News' Steve Harrigan live on Hannity. At the point that an 8-year-old baby is killed, the discussions have ended, Bottoms said, announcing the city will clear the area. So, here we have another, this isn't necessarily an autonomous zone, but it's another police-free zone that was picked up and defended by armed people, where another Democrat mayor is coming out and saying, no more. We've had enough of this bullshit. And once again, I do have to go back to the Chaz and look at this and say, that was a trap trying to get the authoritarian Donald Trump to come in with the military. And it is backfiring on the executives of these cities. And we sit back and wonder why NYPD is not having it when they try and establish another one of these places up in New York. But yeah, no. Bottoms is coming out and saying, okay, the cops are coming in. Playtime's over, kids. And that's a great thing for federalism as well. Just let the states handle their own decisions. They're a lot closer to it than you are, and they understand their own people better than, or I guess maybe they don't understand their own people better than a single top-down government official could. But yeah, so now Bottoms is throwing another one in. So we'll see what happens with this. We'll see if we get any more news coverage of this as well. All right, I got one here from my neck of the woods up here, from Oshkosh Northwestern. I'm going to drink here. I don't know why there's no headline up here. That's weird. Anyway, from Bonita Matthew and Alex Martin. At a grand shoot, about 50 people gathered Sunday to demand the police department fire an officer under investigation for a racist, homophobic, and violent social media posts. The Grand Chute Police Department began an investigation last month after they were notified of Officer Bryce LaLuzerne's tweets. Why does that name sound so familiar from me? Not the Bryce part, but the LaLuzerne. I wonder if I know anybody that's related to that guy, because that's not a really common last name, and I know I've heard it before. Dating back to 2012, 2013, and 2014 that concerned racial slurs, homophobic language, and murder threats. The Twitter account LaLuzerne posted the tweets under no longer exists. Police said they were also investigating an Instagram post that LaLuzerne made in October under the username LaLuLeo738 that references the Boogaloo movement, which has known ties to white supremacy and radical libertarianism. Radical libertarianism, you say? I'm keeping this article, and we're going to talk about this on the other show tonight because I want to see what my co-host has to say about that sentence right there. It included a picture of a handgun. The department's preliminary findings determined that there was no evidence of inappropriate behavior during La Luzerne's time as a patrol officer at the department. The final report of the investigation is set to be completed within 2 weeks. La Luzerne has continued to work as a patrol officer during the investigation and apologized for writing the Twitter posts. According to a memo of the initial findings in the investigation, he said he quoted many of the racist words in tweets from popular songs. According to the memo, La Luzerne was between the ages of 16 and 18 when he posted the tweets. He was 22 years old when he was hired by the department in December of 2017. He is now 24. So they are going back through your high school stuff once again. So it's Brett Kavanaugh all over again. And they think that this stuff is okay. And now I understand the fact that this guy was between 16 and 18 a lot more recently than Kavanaugh was. But still, they're going after anything that they can do to try and tear the system down and tear these people down. And it's getting ridiculous. While most of the social media posts were made before La Luzerne's time as an officer, the protesters demanded that La Luzerne still be held accountable for his behavior in high school. So, we will go ahead here. We're going to move on from this, but I'm going to read a little bit more of this later on in the Red Ned Show later on today. So, come and check that out, and we will read more commentary between live chat than I do here, or between topics rather than I do here, because we got to keep this one moving along. But we're going to keep that one. All right, from another local source, from KPIX out of San Francisco Bay Area, former 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick stirs up controversy with 4th of July Twitter post. With no author given. Former San Francisco 49ers quarterback and Black Lives Matter activist Colin Kaepernick set off a social media firestorm Sunday with a Twitter post critical of the 4th of July holiday. On Twitter, Kaepernick posted, "Black people have been dehumanized, brutalized, criminalized, and terrorized in America for centuries, and are expected to join your commemoration of independence while you enslaved our ancestors. We reject your celebration of white supremacy, and we look forward to liberation for all." You missed it by about 150 years, bud. The post has generated an avalanche of comments, both supportive and critical of his comments. Kaepernick has been a polarizing figure since he took a knee while the 49ers during the national anthem to stand against police brutality and racial injustice in 2016. At the time, he was mostly alone. Politicians, team owners, and fellow players criticized him, fans burned his jerseys, and he was booed even at home. 4 years later, his protest is widely viewed as prescient of the current Black Lives Matter movement. Even NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has apologized to players for not listening to them earlier and encouraged them to protest peacefully. "We, the National Football League, condemn racism and systematic oppression of black people," Goodell said in a video released Friday. "We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black Lives Matter. I personally protest with you and want to be a part of much needed change in this country." George Floyd's death, which ignited nationwide protests over racial injustice and police brutality, awakened many people to the root of the issue that led to Kaepernick's peaceful demonstration, an expression meant to raise awareness of such issues, not demean the flag or the anthem. The 32-year-old Kaepernick hasn't played in the NFL since 2016 because he sucks balls. The protest is really trying to hold us accountable for the things that we believe in. It's about equality and justice for all, said Houston, Texas wide receiver Kenny Stills, who has still been taking knees since week 1 of the 2016 season. San Francisco 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan said Kaepernick deserves respect and admiration. Well, hold on a sec. I want to back that up for a second. This paragraph right here goes right along with what I've been saying at the beginning of this, when they're trying to say that Kaepernick was fired because he was kneeling. This paragraph right here sums it up right there, because Houston, Texas wide receiver Kenny Stills is still playing in the league today. And he's been taking a knee for the exact same amount of time that Colin Kaepernick has. And yet he's still playing. The reason that Kaepernick is not playing is because he sucks at football. His skill went down. He had 2 really great seasons, and his skill went into the fucking shitter. And they fired him because They didn't want that bullshit around. Kenny Stills, who's been kneeling the same amount of time, is still employed by the NFL. So, yeah, that's something you got to take away from this. And of course, Kenny Stills hasn't been getting as much press coverage as Kaepernick has, but the fact that he's still playing means that, yes, this is not about the kneeling. It's about the fact that he's sucked. San Francisco 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan said Kaepernick deserves respect and admiration for starting the protest. Seattle Seahawks coach Pete Carroll praised him for his courage and sacrificing his career in order to get a $1 million deal from Nike instead. Hall of Fame coach Tony Dungy compared Kaepernick to Muhammad Ali. Fact check false. There's a lot of parallels between Colin and my father, said Ali's daughter, Kalia. He stands 100% with integrity no matter what the cost. He made an unwavering commitment for the betterment of his people and took an unapologetic stance against injustice. I've had many people attempt to discourage our support of Colin, which is unthinkable to me. He is a friend to our family. He is loved and honored. So, yeah, he's going to go ahead and get his job back, and I'm not going to do the NFL anymore because I'm not out to get a political lecture when I watch a football game. I want to see the Green Bay Packers offensive line suck at trying to defend Aaron Rodgers and complain about the fact that our team needs a better offensive line. I don't want a political lecture when I'm watching football, and I know a lot of other people that don't as well. This is our unwind time, but we'll drive that into the bottom too. All right, we got to keep moving along here. All right, from the Daily Wire, statue destroyed of famed black abolitionist Frederick Douglass on anniversary of notable speech, from Ryan Saavedra. The statue of famed black abolitionist Frederick Douglass was destroyed at Maplewood Park in Rochester, New York, over the weekend, which comes on the anniversary of a notable speech that Douglass delivered at an Independence Day event in the city in 1852. The base and the lower part of the statue was damaged, as was a finger on the statue's left hand, the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle reported. There is a historical significance to the timing of the vandalism, though no one can now say whether the timing was a mere happenstance, just as there was no historical significance to the statue's very location. The Maplewood Park location includes Kelsey's Landing, where Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and others helped shuttle slaves to safety along the Underground Railroad. Actually, and this is probably going to dox myself at this point, but there is a point in the Underground Railroad not too far away from me. It's actually a historical landmark. I'm not going to name it right now because it'll tell you what city I live in, and it's small enough that it'd be easy enough to find me here. But I mean, the Underground Railroad is an awesome thing because it's people rising up when the government wouldn't take action. And yeah, there's a historical landmark just right down the road from me that was a stop on the railroad. And it's, I mean, they built it up. They've got a lot of antiquities. So I've never visited it, but I know my aunt has and told me about it and told me I need to go check it out. So at some point I actually have to walk down there and do it. It's within walking distance of where I live. So I want to go check that out. But I mean, I like the idea of the Underground Railroad. People standing up when the government won't. That's awesome. Carvin Eisen, who helped bring the statue to the city, told the local newspaper that the statue was too damaged to be repaired, but indicated that another statue would be created to take its place. Rochester police are investigating damage done to the statue of Frederick Douglass in Maplewood Park. WXXI News reported it happened over the weekend, and police say that the statue was torn off its base and left about 50 feet from its pedestal. The statue had been placed over the fence to Genesee River Gorge and was leaning against the fence. The destruction of the statue comes from the 168th anniversary of notable speech that Douglass gave, where he said, "The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, the distance between this platform and the slave plantation from which I escaped is considerable, and the difficulties to be overcome in getting from the latter to the former are by no means slight. That I'm here today is, to me, a matter of astonishment as well as gratitude." I can't believe the fact that they are taking these abolitionists down. I really can't. So that's been something that's been weird to me. I understand the Confederate statues. I don't agree with them coming down because that does give us a point where we can set the launching point and talk about things. And that is a part of the heritage of these places. I was okay with the Confederacy and peaceful secession at this point. It was the Union that didn't want the secession that went along with it. and forced reintegration back into the South. But we also did fight a bloody war to end slavery in this country. But the other side of that, of course, is without the statues, without the monuments, without the history book, because does that come next? Did the history books disappear next? How do we learn about what happened here? But that's just me. All right, let's keep going here. Sister and family attorney of slain Texas soldier Vanessa Guillen calls for our congressional investigation. From Julia Musto over at Fox News. Now, I didn't know anything about this story until Friday. I didn't even know that this was going on, but I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to this here. I don't think we can get them all in this particular episode, but I do want to take some time and actually read a lot more into this and figure out where this started and where this ended. The family of slain Texas soldier Vanessa Guillen, 20, is calling for a congressional investigation into the circumstances surrounding her death. In an interview on Friday on America's Newsroom with host Alicia Acuna, attorney Natalie Coam said the system had failed Guillen and that protocols were breached when Guillen, who had been missing since April, was murdered allegedly at the hands of another soldier on the same Texas military installation where they'd served. The person who was sexually harassing her basically did what we were all fearing, and he killed her. He murdered her while he was working on the base, in the armory room, and he mutilated her body, she stated. And we learned of all of this a couple of nights ago from the CID, and they told us the horrific chain of events that had occurred. Guillen was allegedly killed on April 22nd, the same day she went missing from SBC Aaron David Robinson, inside an armory room where she was working on Fort Hood in Killeen, Texas. Guillen and Robinson, also 20, were both assigned to the 3rd Cavalry Regiment's Engineer Squadron, but were on different troops. Guillen was promoted from Private First Class to Specialist on Wednesday due to her time in service. According to the Army Criminal Investigation Command, Robinson attacked Guillen with a hammer, then dismembered her with a machete. Ugh. Why? What could make you that mad? In addition, Robinson allegedly had his married girlfriend, Cecily Ann Aguilar, 22, helped bury Guillen's body. Aguilar was arrested Wednesday and charged with second-degree felony tampering, fabricating physical evidence with intent to impair a human corpse. She also faces a federal conspiracy to tamper with evidence charge. Robinson fled Fort Hood late Tuesday and fatally shot himself Wednesday. Shot himself, you say? As authorities closed in on him, according to Killeen police. Partial human remains suspected to be Guillen's were found Tuesday near the Leon River, about 26 miles east of the base. A medical examiner in Dallas was still working to identify the remains. Mayra Guillen described her sister Vanessa as a very sweet, humble, generous, and active person. She was always into running track, playing soccer. She was always into anything that was physical activity, she recalled. She decided to join the Army ever since right out of high school. She had the idea when she was 10 years old. She wanted to defend the country, defend us, take care of her family, she told Acuna. Mayra added that her sister had spoken to their mother and best friend about sexual misconduct prior to her death, but that she was afraid to speak out to her superiors. The way I see it is helping you go ask for help to the person who was causing the problem, she explained. Army CID Senior Special Agent Damon Phelps said no evidence has yet to be found to substantiate the claims. The congressional investigation would be our only avenue to find out answers as to how the protocol was breached, how there was no evidence, any surveillance, any videos, and any witnesses, Coam said. So, yeah, there are a lot of moving parts to this. The fact that the dude offed himself as authorities were getting close raises a few red flags into this, because it sounds like there was something else that he didn't want to find out. And then he's apparently sexually harassing this woman while he's diddling some other woman that's married to another dude. There are so many moving parts to this. I'm going to save this one and bookmark it too, because I want to look into this more. There's so much more going on to this. And yes, I don't want to, I want to make sure that my heart goes out once again to the family of Guillen, because you don't really deserve to have this happen to your kid. No family needs to bury a child. That's one of the worst things in the world to do. But man, there's something else going on here. I feel it. This is raising red flags in my brain as I look at this. But that's what I have on this here. Let's keep moving along. All right, from the Daily Wire, Rose McGowan, in her objective beauty, calls for Bill Clinton's arrest after Ghislaine Maxwell from Paul Bois. Now that authorities have arrested the billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein's madam, Ghislaine Maxwell, who allegedly helped procure, is it Ghislaine? Is it, I've heard Ghislaine? I've heard Ghislaine. The R-rated conservative likes to call her Ghislaine, which I can understand why, but I don't know how to pronounce this. Who allegedly helped procure his numerous underage victims, hashtag MeToo activist Rose McGowan has called for the arrests of Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton. Now get Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew, McGowan tweeted Friday, along with a photo of Epstein and Maxwell standing alongside convicted rapist Harvey Weinstein, with their faces crossed out. As the Daily Wire reported last week, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's former girlfriend, was arrested by the FBI last week on allegedly trafficking underage girls. Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in July of last year on the alleged sexual abuse and trafficking of teenage minors. An indictment of alleging sex trafficking and sex trafficking conspiracy was unsealed Monday morning against Epstein, reported Fox News at the time. Prosecutors alleged that Epstein preyed on dozens of victims as young as 14. Flight records indicate the former president, Bill Clinton, flew aboard the Lolita Express, Epstein's private plane, when underage girls were present and sometimes without his Secret Service detail. In a statement, Bill Clinton emphatically denied ever knowing about the 66-year-old hedge fund manager's terrible crimes. Investigative journalist Conchita Sarnoff told Fox News that the evidence disputes Clinton claims and that he could be very well lying. I have read too much information and I've spoken to too many people on the inside, Sarnoff said. I actually attempted to interview Clinton, but he did not agree to do so, and I know from pilot logs, and these are pilot logs that were written by different pilots at different times, that Clinton went and he was a guest of Epstein's 27 times. Many of those times, Clinton had his Secret Service with him, and many times he did not, Sarnoff continued. Almost every time that Clinton's name is on the pilot logs, there are underage girls, their initials, and there are names of many, many girls on that private plane. Laura Goldman, a friend of Maxwell's, told The Sun last year that Epstein's former confidant will escape criminal prosecution due to her powerful connections. Ghislaine and her sister Isabel remain totally convinced that she'll escape any criminal convictions and will eventually clear the family name and return to high society once the dust is settled, Goldman said. She has wealthy connections who hide her and even pay her some legal fees. She can stay out of the public eye as long as she wants. Yeah, there are other moving parts that go along with this as well. I just found out, and I haven't been able to verify this, that apparently there's a prosecution agreement that Jeffrey Epstein signed that said that anytime that there's prosecution that needs to be had, that they need to go after him and not any of his associates at all. That everything needs to go to him, which I don't understand how you can do that without implicating yourself. But yeah, he's got a written agreement, and she may walk on that, and she may walk on some other things because she's loaded and has a great lawyer. But yeah, I'm sure I'm with a lot of people here taking bets as to when this woman offs herself, because I think it's going to come, because she knows way too much about way too many people. And of course, she is supposedly going to the same prison as Epstein was, where the cameras went out and the guards fell asleep, and a paper-thin sheet can support a 200-pound man. And all those other things that don't add up. So we'll be watching this here for a bit. And, honestly, something was brought to my attention once again, citing Beauty and the Beta from last night. This is all happening as the BLM stuff is starting to fizzle out. People are starting to not care about that anymore. So this may be the next shot of fear porn, because, nobody cares about the coronavirus anymore. As much as the mainstream media tries to stick it in your arm and tries to force you to take the coronavirus, nobody cares about it anymore. The BLM thing is starting to fizzle off because it's just been nonstop for the last 6 weeks or 3 weeks or however long it's been. 6 weeks, I think it's been. But it's just been nonstop from the beginning of that. And now that's starting to taper off too, and they're just trying to find something else to stick into your arm to try and outrage people. So there's definitely more going on here. All right. The next one here. Some good news, maybe, from KOMO News. Pine Street reopened to traffic for the first time a month after CHOP is cleared. From Jonathan Cho. Things have been quieter today near the former Capitol Hill Occupy protest zone, and there are signs of progress. Pine Street is back open to traffic for the first time in about a month, but there are still barriers on some surrounding streets like 10th Street, 11th Street, and Nagel. No more police checkpoints, and the lunch rush is starting to pick up again. Capitol Hill is starting to look like Capitol Hill before it turned into the CHOP. Technically, this area is still closed for a few more days under Mayor Jenny Durkin's emergency order, used to clear out protesters earlier in the week, but authorities have said they've reopened Pine Street because all the cleanup is now done. City leaders say they're going to do everything possible to preserve the Black Lives Matter mural on Pine Street. However, the presence of protesters is still here. By day, it's only a few, like Jaden Nolan. They don't want me crossing that line. I won't, says Nolan. But for the past couple nights, more demonstrators joined in, clashing with police near Pine and Broadway, leading to several arrests. The last few days, the police have tested the protesters' tactics, and the protesters have tested the police tactics, said Omari Salisbury, an independent journalist who's captured nearly every major development on the ground. I think it'll be a very busy weekend. Cal Anderson Park is still temporarily closed for cleanup. No one with the Parks and Recreation will go back to us on when it will reopen. So, they're starting to get it cleaned up, and people can start enjoying Seattle again as much as you can actually enjoy Seattle, because it's pretty woke and pretty progressive. But they're starting to get it open back up, and Durkin found a pair apparently and decided that enough is enough. It's time to actually go out and get this back open for business. So I'll give credit where credit is due. Good for Durkin and good for the police department for getting it all cleaned up, and hopefully it won't be too long before they can get the rest of the demonstrators cleared out of there and people can go back to having the property that they either lease or pay for in the area. So this is good news. I like this. All right. A couple more things here. A little bit of personal interest. For the first time on this show, I'm citing from TMZ, of all places. But let's see what they have to say here. Arizona QAnon Karen destroys Target face mask display, claims her $40,000 Rolex pissed off staff. An Arizona woman says she was sent by President Trump and a conspiracy theory group to take Target to task for selling face masks and to flaunt her alleged high-priced watch. The internet has dubbed the gal here QAnon Karen after she filmed herself going on Scottsdale area Target and knocking down the face masks on display in one of their aisles. She had to talk herself up before doing it, making it sound like a last stand mission. She rants about not doing it anymore, which we think means she's not going to let the face mask be sold anymore. Who the hell knows? But she went to town on the display. Some staffer eventually comes over and asks her to stop, but she refuses, incoherently saying they let everyone else do it, probably citing the fact that they burned the Target down in Minneapolis and have rioted in many other places, and then questioning if they're trying to stop her because she's a white blonde woman. But wait, it gets even more cringeworthy. Karen ponders whether they're hassling her because she has on a $40,000 Rolex. Just utter nonsense, but also hilarious. People have noted that Rollies don't usually shop at or terrorize Targets. Not really fair because Targets are awesome, but again, this woman thinks that she was sent by higher powers, those powers being 45 and QAnon, of course, of which she says she's a spokesperson. Another video showed the aftermath of all of this. Appears cops tracked her down. It appears cops tracked her down to her home, that's the sentence I'm looking for, and arrested her, which she also recorded. You gotta watch this mess on your own. Welcome to the new normal, where masks are now the bane of some folks' existence. Yeah, no, if people want to buy a mask, I have no problem with this. I've been very, very libertarian on the mask idea. And when we get to the thing that restores my faith in humanity, I'm going to go on about that a little bit more. But yeah, if people want to buy these things, I don't agree with it. I don't think they should. But it's their own money. They can spend it and blow it on whatever the hell they want. Certainly, I don't want somebody coming out and lecturing me if I decide to go out and buy a Nintendo Switch, which I've actually been trying to budget for the last couple months because I want to play the new Legend of Zelda. So, you can spend your money however you want. We're a free country. nobody can tell you how you want to spend your money, but yeah, I mean, we've got these little one-offs here where people are going in and just they think they're sent by a higher power. And I don't know what happened here to start this. And I mean, there are other parts of this that are making me think that this is a plant because up until now we've never seen anything like this. But that's because I don't trust anything out of the mainstream news anymore. And this is coming from TMZ and wasn't covered by like a CNN or a Fox or anything else that's screen check verified. It was only TMZ that brought this out. So I do have a lot of questions here, especially whether or not this is staged. But once again, I don't think we're going to hear a lot more out of this. All right. I got one more here, and then we're going to do what restores my faith in humanity for the week. So this almost was what restored my faith in humanity for the week, but Merriam-Webster officially weighs in on the irregardless debate, post snarky comment in response to critics from Amanda Prez to Giacomo. Last week, 189-year-old dictionary company Merriam-Webster confirmed that irregardless is a word in their dictionary. It's not. Despite dissent from educators, in a tweet published Wednesday, a Twitter user posted a screenshot of irregardless defined in the online Merriam-Webster dictionary, captioning in the photo, "It was a good run, English language." In a snarky response, the official Twitter account for the dictionary responded, "Why is there an official Twitter account for a dictionary?" Responded, "Yep, English is literally dead." Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. I can't. That's too much. On Merriam-Webster's web pages, the dictionary says irregardless is certainly a word, even if it may not be a word that you like or a word that you would use on a term paper. It's been in use for well over 200 years, the site says, employed by a large number of people across a wide geographic range, and with a consistent meaning. That is why we, and well nigh every other dictionary of modern English, define the word. The dictionary company claims irregardless has the same meaning as regardless, so why have a separate word for it? Many people find irregardless to be a nonsensical word, as ir prefix usually functions to indicate negation. However, in this case, it appears to function as an intensifier. Merriam-Webster says similar ir words, while rare, do exist in the English, including irremediably, irresistless, and irrelentlessly. Instead of slang, irregardless is defined as non-standard by Merriam-Webster, meaning not conforming in pronunciation, grammatical construction, idiom, or word choice to the usage generally characteristic of educated native speakers of the language. Speaking to NPR, teacher and author Michelle Ray told the outlet that despite the dictionary's assertion, irregardless is not a real word. First of all, it's a double negative. Fact check true. In what context would irregardless make sense? She asked. I hope that we're not just down that path that whatever people say is correct, because I'll be sitting around grading papers going, nope, 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 Ray added. Last month, the dictionary changed the definition of the word racism after a 22-year-old woman made a complaint that the previous, supposedly limited definition. Yeah, this is actually happening, folks. And I will still not use the word, because the proper word is regardless, but Merriam-Webster has decided that it is a word. I don't know why, but I thought it was funny, especially the snarky response. Alright, and now we have, speaking of masks once again, what restores my faith in humanity? So, on July 4th, Leticia Montana tweets out, I went to an emergency department at St. Joseph's Hospital in Toronto for a suspected broken finger. I was asked to wear a mask, which I refused to do. As a result, hospital staff asked me to leave and immediately called 3 security guards to escort me out. You know, I actually haven't watched the video on this, so we're going to do that. Let's throw your ears on here, because I actually want to see what this sounds like.
The hospital. Say that again, please.
In the hospital.
It's a. Why am I not allowed to video? I'm not allowed to video, but you're making me wear a mask. Otherwise, you're gonna deny me service if I don't wear a mask. I'm at St. Joseph's Hospital. They're telling me that if I don't wear a mask, they're not gonna assist me. They want me to leave. Whose policy is that?
Ministry of Health.
Ministry of Health policy.
Areas of the hospital.
All right, so this happened in Canada, so this is a little bit different laws concerning Canada than happen here. And of course, I do have to point out the fact that I am partially ignorant to Canadian law, so there's that going along as well. But this, and I said before, I'm mostly libertarian on masks. I think that if you want to wear a mask, you can wear a mask, and I pointed that out in the TMZ article. If you want to wear a mask, then absolutely wear a mask. But, now, let me go on with that. If you want to associate with a business that requires masks, you should wear a mask if you want to associate with that business. Otherwise, don't associate with that business. I've been very libertarian and very consistent about that from the beginning. I'm not going to stop you from wearing a specific article of clothing. I think it looks dumb, don't get me wrong, but it's your choice to do what you want to do. I am not going to wear a mask unless I go to Menards. Because I like Menards, I like their pricing, and I like the fact that they're a local business. And I've said before, if Menards mandated that you wear a yellow shirt into their store in order to be in their store, I would wear a yellow shirt to be in their store. If I wanted to do business with them. Otherwise, I would stop doing business with them. It's that simple. But a hospital is where it's different. Now, this may seem weird because I'm saying that this is what restores my faith in humanity. Let me justify this first, though. The hospital, you are legitimately around people that are immunocompromised. So even if you are more draconian than I am on the fact that we should never be wearing masks no matter what, I think it would still behoove you to make that one secession over the hospital, because you are literally surrounded by people who are immunocompromised. Whether you're wrong or the World Health Organization is wrong, just take that extra step to support your fellow man. And the reason, of course, that this is restoring my faith in humanity is just looking through the comment section off of this, because this woman got ratioed for this horribly by a lot of united people. This actually united people on the left and the right off of this. Of course, we had a lot of fairly hardcore people that were like, well, you should never wear a mask anywhere. They should have kicked her out and that's a denial of the Hippocratic Oath. And yes, I do see the point in the fact that it is a violation of the Hippocratic Oath. They're right, but there again, whoever is wrong on this, they're saving a lot more lives by not letting somebody who's immunocompromised come in without the mask. Make the concession about the hospital. That's what you should do. And the fact that so many people united on this, no matter which side they were on, so many people united around this to ratio this woman like this, gives me some faith that we can actually come together at some point and fix the divisiveness in our country, in our culture, and in our country to the north, our neighbors to the north, and the culture of our neighbors to the north. So this is a point where I can actually see we could actually find some unity somewhere. It's going to be difficult to find the unity again, but it's somewhere in there. We could find it again. And that restores my faith in humanity. The fact that we can still somehow, somewhat unify. And that's what I have for the day. So it was a good episode today. Thanks for everybody for coming by. Make sure that you come by tonight at 5:30 Central Time and check out our brand new show on Freedom Scoop, the Red and Ed Show. I'm fairly excited for that to premiere, and my co-host is as well. We've been texting back and forth, so we're both on the same page, ready to go there. Love to see you there, and we will read the live chat between topics just like we did on Ed's World. So come on in and check us out and enjoy the new backdrop and the new co-host. I'm really excited for this to go, and really excited to see where this comes. So thanks everybody for coming and checking us out. Until then, if we can't make it tonight, then we will see you tomorrow with more news. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.